President, please be seated. The court is now in session. Today the chamber will hear 2 TCW 931 in relation to S21 Security Center. Greffier M. Hoy, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals at today's proceedings. Greffier, Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present, except Kong Som On. Lawyer Kong Som On is not here due to his personal reasons. Today, there is a witness to testify, 2 TCW 931. To the best of his knowledge, he confirms that he has no relationship by blood or by law to any of the two accused, Nguyen Chia and Khieu Samphan, or to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. The witness took an oath already before the Iron Club statue yesterday, and this witness will have the duty counsel Mom Rathia with him. The witness together with the duty counsel are present in the waiting room, waiting to be called by the chamber. President, thank you, Mr. M. Hoy. Yesterday, the chamber decides that before the chamber proceeds to hear 2 TCW 931, the chamber first would provide the floor to Nguyen Chia to make a speech in relation to the fact of S21, and he says that they had something in relation with Vietnam. So now the floor is given to Nguyen Chia to make a speech. Nguyen Chia, I am grateful to you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the last witness mentioned that the DK captured and imprisoned Vietnamese soldiers after military clashes between the two countries. He also mentioned traitors from the East Zone and interrogating traitors from the Northwest Zone. I would like to respond to what the witness said, and I want to explain more about the conflict between Cambodia and Vietnam and about prisoners' activities in Cambodia. I have discussed some of this information before, but I think it is very important to what we are discussing in this court. In relation to the period of 1975, particularly in early May, Vietnamese troops conquered the coastal areas of Kampot province, and on 8th of May, these troops moved inside Cambodian territory bordering with Tây Ninh province. In late May, an American warship Mayagay trespassed onto Cambodian marine water at the area surrounding Koh Tan Island. In executing orders of U.S. President Ford and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, The U.S. war planes bombed Sihanoukville port and destroyed 3 to 5 warehouses. In June, Vietnam troops trespassed Cambodian province Ratnakiri and Koh Tang Island. The same month, Pol Pot and Vietnam leader Nguyen Van Linh met and discussed the border clashes, but no decision was made at the time. The two leaders agreed to educate their soldiers not to engage in armed clash. Also in June 1975, Pol Pot, Ieng Sary, and I visited Hanoi. Cambodian delegates requested to establish a friendship agreement, but Vietnam did not respond as they needed a so-called quote-unquote special friendship with Cambodian. The special friendship under the Vietnamese leadership. Also in June, Vietnamese soldiers conquered Cambodian army base on Koh Trol. Also in June, Vietnam captured Cambodian bases on Bulawayo Island, which they controlled until August. In August, Lee Duan, General Secretary of Communist Party of Vietnam, led a delegation to visit Cambodia. Vietnam agreed to return Bulawayo to Cambodia. However, armed clashes between two armies continued to take place along the border of the two countries. In December, armed clashes between the two armies were reported in areas at the northern provinces. Vietnam started to repatriate to Cambodia Khmer refugees who moved there in 1954. Mr. President, based on confidential information, we learned that the returnees from Vietnam had a plan to stage a coup to topple the legitimate government of Democratic Cambodia, 1976. Concerning events in 1976, in May, there was a meeting between Cambodian officials and Vietnam officials. However, the Vietnamese delegates refused to recognize the Brevier line. The meeting therefore ended. In October, Thai soldiers engaged in armed clashes with DK soldiers on the border Thai province of Trat. That same month, Thai naval forces also engaged in armed clash with DK soldiers. In December, the naval forces of Thailand and Cambodia ultimately clashed. In January 1977, Thai forces and DK clashed along the border at the west. In February, DK made a memoir to various embassies in Peking, explaining that between December 1976 and January 1977, Thailand had invaded Cambodia 17 times. Mr. President, in 1977, we also learned that treasonous activities were increasing. In particular, there were attempts for coup by the forces of Coi Thuan, the former Northern Secretary. Nguyen, the commander of Division 310, worked with Coi Thuan on this plot. Their plans were in cooperation with the plans of Vietnam. In April, Vietnamese forces invaded into Cambodia's provinces next to Chu Doc and Ha Tien. In May, there was further fighting between Vietnam and DK at many places along the border of Ha Tien province. In August, there was an attempt in Phnom Penh to topple the DK by the treasonous pro-Vietnamese group within the DK. Vietnamese troops later entered deeply into Cambodia at Svai Rieng, Prey Veng, Ratanakiri, and Kampot. In October 1977, Vietnamese troops entered into Cambodia along the border at many places. In December, Vietnam sent 14 division troops to invade Cambodia's provinces along the border, except the east zone where some of the cadres had defected to Vietnam. Because of Vietnam's contemptible actions, the DK announced its decision to break diplomatic relations with Vietnam in order to protest the Vietnamese policies of invasion, expansion, and swallowing Cambodia, and also to protest Vietnam's policy of appointing Indochina Federation led by Vietnam. Mr. President, everything came to a head in 1978. In January, 6 divisions of Vietnamese forces invaded Cambodia to the east of Mekong River. Also in January and in early February, both sides' forces engaged in fighting in the eastern part of Cambodia. On the Vietnamese side, there were 9,000 soldiers participating in this offensive. In March, Vietnamese tanks invaded Cambodia at Tha Khao and Kampot. In April, the radio at Hanoi appealed to the Cambodian people to wake up and topple the DK. In May, Vietnam incited rebellion in the eastern zone by inciting fighting between Khmers. Some of the leading Khmer cadres defected to Vietnam, including Heng Somrin, the divisional leader. Fighting between DK and Vietnam was very hot at the border of Tây Ninh province and Mê Mốt district. In June, Vietnam started using air forces to drop bombs on Cambodia at the eastern border. In August, the group of Khmer defectors who were appointed by Vietnam joined with the Vietnam to fight DK at the eastern zone. In October, Vietnamese forces controlled some parts of the east zone, which led to a tightened situation. Finally, Mr. President, I note that in 1978, Vietnam also tried to make a coup to topple the DK by having Von Wait and his clique lead it. However, it failed due to the arrest of Von Wait. Thank you very much, Mr. President. President, thank you.
This is to Council now. Obviously, we always appreciate your client testifying, but perhaps you could next time ensure that it actually happens at the appropriate time. I still don't understand what that has to do with S21. Just advice.
Maybe Judge Fence, if you would have a look at the judgment in case 001, there's dozens of pages relating to the armed conflict with Vietnam. that is directly relevant to S21, where Vietnamese prisoners of war were taken. The whole issue of whether there was an armed conflict is directly relevant to the crimes allegedly occurring at S21. My client mentioned Khoi Thun and Un, he mentioned Von Vet. I know that everyone in this courtroom tries to evade.
Counsel, no reason to. I gave an advice. It would have been more helpful to do it at another stage. We have heard him. Fine. No, we don't need pleading now.
យើងមិនត្រូវការសិក្សាសារណាបញ្ចប់ឬក៏សរុបនៅពេលនេះទេលោកមេធាវី
បាទហើយតទៅនេះសូម
President, you can proceed now, Nguyen Chia. Do you have anything else to address the chamber?
ខ្ញុំសូមអនុញ្ញាត
Mr. President, I would like to seek your permission so that I could be moved to the holding cell downstairs. President, the chamber is seized with the request of Nguyen Chia to go to the holding cell downstairs so that he can follow the proceedings remotely. Having seen the medical report of Nguyen Chia by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECC this morning, who notes that Nguyen Chia has chronic back pain, and the doctor recommends that, if possible, the chamber should allow Nguyen Chia to follow the proceeding as usual from the holding cell downstairs. And based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ACC internal rules, the chamber grants Nguyen Chia his request to follow today's proceeding remotely from the holding cell downstairs via audio-visual means from this time onward until the evening, the afternoon. And counsel for Nguyen Chia is obliged to provide the waiver with the sampling of fingerprints of the accused to the chamber, and security personnel are instructed to bring Mr. Nguyen Chia to the holding cell downstairs so that he can follow the proceeding remotely from that room. AV personnel are instructed to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that he can follow the proceedings. This applies to the whole day. Nguyen Chia, security personnel, please bring Nguyen Chia to that room. And court officer, please invite the witness together with the duty counsel into the courtroom. President. Good morning, Mr. Witness. Can you tell the chamber what your name is? witness. My name is Prakon. Present. Thank you, Mr. Prakon. What is your date of birth? Do you recall it? Answer. I cannot recall my date of birth very well, but I know that I am 61 years old this year. Present. And where were you born, Mr. Prakon? Please observe the microphone, Mr. Witness. Answer. I was born in Krang Lieu village, Krang Lieu commune, Bati district, Takao province. Question. And what is your current address? Answer. I am living in Smile Knyei village, Tropeng Sap commune, Bati district, Takao province. Said the witness. Question. What is your current occupation? Answer. I am a vendor and also a farmer. President. And what are your parents' names? Answer. My father's name is Pratmon, deceased, and my mother's name is Main One, deceased. Question. What about your wife? What is her name and how many children do you have? Answer. My wife's name is Walha and I have 5 children. President. Thank you, Mr. Prakon. Based on the report of the greffier a while ago, to the best of knowledge, you have no relationship by blood or by law to any of the 2 accused and to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. And also, you took a note already before the Iron Club statue to the east of this courtroom. Is the report correct? Answer. Yes, that is correct. President. Thank you, Mr. Prakon. I am now informing you of your rights and obligations. As a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you, right against self-incrimination. As for your obligation, you, as a witness in the proceeding before the chamber, must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comment to those questions may incriminate you, as the chamber has just informed you of your rights as a witness. You must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, remembered, experienced, or observed directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions the bench or parties posed to you. Mr. Prakon, have you ever provided interviews or have you ever interviewed by the investigators of the ECCCs or CIJ? And if any, how many times did they take place and where? Answer. I was interviewed at Phnom Tamau or Tamau Mountain 2 times during the time that I was during the investigation stage. President, thank you. And before you are here, have you read or reviewed the written records of the interview that you provided to investigators to refresh your memory? Answer. Yes, I have read some of them. Question. To the best of your recollection, are those written records of the interview you have read correct and also consistent with what you told the investigators at Phnom Tamao, as you said? Answer, yes, they are consistent. Present. Thank you. And during the time that this witness is testifying, he has volunteered the duty counsel with him. And in accordance with internal Rule 91 bis of the ECCC, the floor is first given to the co-prosecutors to put questions. And the co-prosecutors, together with the lead co-lawyers for civil party, is 1 day, said the President.
លោកលោកស្រីចក្រមនិងភាគីទាំងអស់ដែលមានវត្តមានទីនេះសូមជម្រាបសួរលោកសាស្ត្រ
Co-prosecutor. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, everyone in and around the courtroom. Good morning, Mr. Witness. My name is Sri Ratana. I am the National Deputy Co-Prosecutor of the ECCC. I have several questions to put to you in relation to your work between 1975 and 1979. And then my international colleagues will have some further questions. You told the court earlier that you, in the previous times, provided interviews to the investigators, and based on the documents that I have, you used to come to testify before the chamber in case 001, and you stated that you were part of Division 703 before you were sent to ST21. Is that correct? Answer, yes, that is correct. Question, in relation to the work that you did at S21, when did you start working at S21? Answer, I cannot recall it well when I started working in S21. Perhaps it happened in late 1975 and early 1976. Question, was that during the rainy or dry seasons? Answer, it was the windy season, that is the season that we harvest rice. Question, after you were assigned to work as a guard, which location specifically were you assigned to stand guard? Answer, at first I was asked to station to the east of that compound close to the sewage irrigation system. Question, could you clarify this, the locations for the court? What was the street number of that location that you stood guard, which you stated that you were standing guard close to the sewage system? Answer, I cannot recall the number of the road clearly. If it is, it was in the east from Moniwong Boulevard. Question, so the post you stood guard, or the location you stood guard, was at Ludax or close to sewage irrigation system. Is that correct? Answer, yes, that is correct. Question, and where did you stay or leave after work? Answer. I slept or stay after work at the Sombok Mum radio station, that is the Beehive radio station to the east of fire station. Question. So how far was it from the place where you stood guard and the house where you lived? Answer. It was about 50 meters apart, said the witness. Co-prosecutor. Mr. Witness, now I am telling you that I am asking you about the work or the guard duties that you performed at the outside the compound of S21. And I want you to tell the court, so what were your daily works or tasks as a guard? Answer. We had to stand guard at the gates, and we were required to open and close the door to make sure that no one could enter into S21 freely. Question. What did you see during the time that you were on duty, particularly during the time that people were entering into that compound and the vehicles entered into that compound? Answer. I was standing guard at the gates. I noticed vehicles coming in and out. That is the four-wheel drive vehicles, and those vehicles transported prisoners into the compound from time to time.
Question. Can you tell us where that vehicles come from, or which units those vehicles belong to? Answer. Those vehicles belong to S21. Question. Why were you so sure that those vehicles belonged to S21? Answer. I recognized those vehicles. Those were Volkswagen vehicles, and I knew the drivers. So the people you recognize on those vehicles, are you referring to the drivers or the other people? Answered. The drivers. Question. What about other trucks from other units beside those from S21? Answer. There were no other trucks from other units. There were only vehicles from S21. Question. Related to this matter, to refresh your memory, as you have already given the interview to the investigators, in document E35156, Khmer EON 00146613, English 00161568, French 00705389. The question is posed to you is that, do you recognize the drivers in the vehicles? And your answer was yes. Question to you was, did you see the vehicles from S21 going out to transport prisoners in? Answer, yes. And another question, did you ever see the chief of the prison going out to arrest prisoners? Your answer was only the subordinates or normal staff. End of quote. So from your testimony a little bit earlier, you said that there were no vehicles from other units beside the vehicle from S21. So what is your reaction to this quote from your earlier statement? Answer. My answer is that there were no other vehicles. There were only vehicles from S21 that were sent out to bring in prisoners. Question. So regarding the opening of the gate regulation, when the gate were open, the truck went straight into the compound or it stopped somewhere outside the compound? Answer. When I opened the gate, the trucks came in the compound. And the truck arrived at the place where he registered the names of people who were brought in. Question. So where is the location where prisoners were, where newly arrived prisoners were registered? Answer. It was located in the middle of C and D buildings. Question. So the registration office, is it within the compound of S21 or still outside the compound? Answer, yes, it was inside the compound. Question. Talking about the trucks, how many prisoners were transported on each truck? Answer. I cannot say how many people were transported on each truck. Sometimes 3 or 4 on each one. Sometimes there were many. The truck made in China could transport up to 50 or 60 people at a time. Question. To refresh your memory, when you gave your testimony in case 001 on 21 July 2009 at 10:03 in document E37/7463, you said that, and I quote, in each truck there were around 10 people if the truck was small, but if the truck was bigger, it could transport up to 20 people. End of quote, free translation. So what is your reaction to this statement that you gave earlier? President, Mr. Prakon, please hold on. Answer. Yes, that is correct. When prisoners were transported by smaller truck, there were 3 or 4, but on bigger trucks there were more. Question: among those prisoners transported by truck, were their hands handcuffed? Answer: yes, they were handcuffed to the back, and they were also blindfolded. Question: so it means all the people transported from the outside were brought with their hand cuffed and blindfolded. It means there was no one who was not handcuffed or blindfolded. Is that correct? Answer: yes, that's correct. Question: thank you, Mr. Witness. Mr. President, I have no more question to pose to the witness. I would like to ask for your permission to hand over the floor to my international colleague.
Merci, bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, the parties. My name is Vincent de Wilde, Mr. Witness. I will put questions to you throughout this day. And for a start, I would like to reassure you that our objective is to establish the truth before this chamber. And of course, you are appearing here as a witness, and no one is charging you with anything whatsoever for the time being. Since you have taken an oath, I would like you to tell the truth and nothing but the truth regarding your role at S21. And I'll start with a few follow-up questions in light of the answers you've given to previous questions. As a matter of fact, in E3/5156, your record interview, you've already been quoting page 8 in French, 6 in English, and 7 in Khmer, and this is what you stated. Most of the time, it was people from outside who brought them, and you were talking of prisoners who entered S21. And then you are asked, do you see S21 vehicles go outside to bring in prisoners? And your answer was, I did. End of quote. Some of it was free translation, but you stated that most of the time it was outsiders bringing them. So it is persons from external units who brought them in. Do you therefore confirm that apart from the S21 trucks that entered the premises of S21, there were also other vehicles that brought in prisoners from outside the premises of S21? Did I properly understand your testimony?
But
let me clarify on the issue. I may have been confused during my earlier testimony or interview given to the investigator. I would like to clarify that there were only vehicles from S21 who were sent out to transport prisoners into the prison.
Vous aviez également...
You also stated before this chamber on oath at the hearing of the 21st of July 2009 and its transcript E3/7463 at about 9 hours 59, and you were talking precisely of persons who are brought in by units outside of S21, and this is what you stated. At times, they transported prisoners who were already handcuffed. At times, they transported prisoners who were then brought to a house, and it was there that they were arrested. And further down, they were arrested in the house in which I was based. Does that refresh your memory, witness?
Yes, I can recall it. There were some occasions when prisoners were unloaded from the truck outside the compound, and then people from the prison arrested them from that place and brought them into the compound.
សហបញ្ញរកអន្តរជាតិបើតាមការ
President, International Co-Prosecutor, based on my observation, your question should be directed to these details about the location of S21, because S21 in those days it was different from the physical landscape like buildings that we see at present time. And based on testimonies from previous witnesses, there were different tiers of the compound of S21. So if the questions are directed to the witness to clarify the physical features or landscapes of S21 at that time, it would be more helpful.
Je vais essayer de clarifier.
I will try to clarify that. Witness, you stated that on the one hand there were trucks entering the premises with buildings A, B, C, D. That is in S21. And now you're saying that there were trucks that stopped before the gate. And those who alighted from those trucks and who had not yet been arrested were then arrested. You have stated that they were brought to a house, and that is where you were based. Is that indeed the house you've referred to, which was 50 meters from where you were supposed to stand guard at the gate? I am still talking of the exterior of the S21 fence.
If we talk about the compound of S21, it's about 1 kilometer. It's about 1 square kilometer, said this witness. To the south, it's a border with Tultumpung Pagoda, and to the north, it borders with the sewage canal. And another side, it borders with the currently electricity station. And the house that I referred to earlier, it was based at currently Beehive radio station. So it was a bit far from the current compound. So people was unloaded from the truck and gathered there, and where they were arrested and brought into the prison.
D'accord. Quand
Very well. When you say that they were arrested, does it mean that they were handcuffed and blindfolded before they were brought into the premises of the prison?
After they had been arrested, they were handcuffed and blindfolded, and then put back onto the track and brought into S21.
Okay.
Very well. You talked of the recording and Susti. Upon the arrival, were the prisoners interrogated to obtain their biography before their photographs were taken?
When prisoners arrived, based on my own witness, at the office, the prisoners were photographed and their biographies were drawn up.
En tant que garde qui était posté à
As a guard who stood guard outside of S21 at the beginning of your work at S21, did you have the right to enter the premises of the prison?
When I was based outside the compound, what I told you earlier about my witnessing, it was at a later stage when I already transferred to work inside the compound that I witnessed the drawing up of biographies and photographing of prisoners. When I was outside the compound, I did not have the rights to go inside the compound.
Merci pour cette précision.
Thank you for this clarification. Now, you saw prisoners being brought in. When the prisoners were taken outside of S21, how did that happen? You were a guard, and you could see prisoners being brought out. Were they led out of the premises on foot or in trucks, or it depended on the days? It changed depending on the days.
At that time, when prisoners were taken out, they were taken out to be killed at nearby places, and their bodies were buried in those nearby places.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, I do not think I got the full answer. The interpretation was cut at a point in time. There may be a problem with the microphone. May I therefore request the witness to repeat his answer?
President, co-prosecutor, you may repeat your question because the witness may have already forgotten your question.
Merci. Donc,
Thank you. A witness, in light of what I heard, you stated that the prisoners were brought out of S21 prison to be executed, and I heard that some of them were executed in the vicinity of S21. Is that what you stated? And did you add any details? I did not hear those details.
Yes, I said so.
lorsque vous étiez garde, toujours, est-ce
When you were a guard, did you also observe that the bodies of prisoners executed were buried in pits that were dug in places close to where you were living? Did you see those kinds of pits?
President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. The floor is given to Counsel Victor Kope.
I object to this last question, Mr. President. He's leading the witness. Also, he's inviting the witness to speculate. When the witness was a guard, his duties were very restricted. He offers that the prisoners that he saw being transferred out were killed, but he doesn't actually have any concrete information to back that up. It's something that he mixes into his answer. We should be very precise with this witness. He is speculating. He is using post-79 knowledge to color his answers. And on top of this, prosecution is leading.
Monsieur le Président,
If I may respond, Mr. President, I do not understand this objection because it is intimidating, because the defense says that he entered, whereas the questions have not been asked, and he's saying that the witness is speculating on the basis of information obtained after 1979. So I will put questions regarding these executions and proceed in a different manner. Witness regarding S-21 prisoners who were executed in the vicinity of S-21 prison. Were they buried, or they were left unburied? To rot.
Let me clarify. During the time when I was on guarding duty outside, the dead body were killed at the Sangsarun theater. So from the present day fire engine department to that theaters, it was all graveyards for the executed prisoners.
est-ce que vous avez vu ces fosses?
Did you see those pits? Did you get close to them? Can you describe them? And particularly, do you remember whether there was a nauseating stench from those pits in which people were buried, as you said?
The burial sites, I visited that place when I went to find coconut fruits, and I saw the blood stains nearby on the graves, and there was some smell coming out from the inside.
Est-ce que des prisonniers ont été enterrés au...
Were prisoners buried around S-21 prison up until 1979?
Executed prisoners were buried around S-21, and this practice took place until 1979. But at a later years of the regime, prisoners were also taken farther away to be killed at other places.
In 1975 or 1976, during the months when you were a guard, how many, on average, prisoners arrived every day or every week? I'm not asking for a precise figure, I'm just asking for an idea. Or maybe if it's easier for you, can you tell me how many trucks arrived every day or every week?
President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. The floor is given to Counsel Victor Kope.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not sure where the year 1975 is coming from. I think there is abundant evidence that S21, as we know it now, tool slang, the ABCDE buildings compound, was established probably in the spring of 1976. There is a biography of this witness summarized by Isa Osman, saying that he actually entered S21 as a guard in July or June 1976. So he doesn't really have any knowledge post or pre that date.
I agree, yes, Mr. President, but simply I was speaking about the period that the witness approximated. He didn't remember if he arrived at the end of 75 or 1976, but we do agree with the defense that S21, or in any case, the security center was first set up at the PJ before. So in 1976, therefore, witness, when you worked as a guard for a few months around S21, how many prisoners did you see enter every day or every week? Or how many trucks would you see come with prisoners?
Answer. There were only a few numbers of prisoners coming in. The prisoner would come one or two in a week or in around 10 days. And it was, there were many prisoners coming into 1978 and 1979. President interrupts. Please make it clear the date and the year you are mentioning, because it was only a few days in 1979 that the regime could still control the country. So please make sure that you specify date and year clearly, Mr. Witness.
So, is it true that that there was an increase in the number of prisoner arrivals at one point in time, corrects the interpreter, and as of which year did this increase occur? Were you still a guard, or were you already an interrogator when this happened?
Answer. When I was Stuttgart at the outside compound, the number of prisoners were not so many, and then the increase in numbers of prisoners started to happen from 1977-78 onward.
In 1977-1978, because of the purges within the parties and the zones and the ministries and the divisions, did that number then increase?
Yes, after the purge happened, the number of prisoners increased.
Do you remember any specific days when there was a massive arrival of prisoners at S21?
Pouvez-vous nous dire si
Can you tell us if that happened? And if that was the case, what kind of prisoners were these and where did they come from?
The massive arrival of prisoners happened in perhaps late 1978 during the time that the Vietnamese fought to enter into the territory of Cambodia, and many of those prisoners were brought from the east.
Alors, je vais avancer.
Well, let me plow ahead a little bit here. When you were a security guard outside of the prison's fence, did you see interrogators bringing in prisoners to be interrogated in the houses that were located outside of the prison itself?
Answer. I was not aware of that since I was guarding at the outer perimeter.
Well, exactly. I was speaking about interrogations that took place outside of the center, in the houses that were located just outside of the gate of the prison itself. Did you know back then when you were a guard that interrogations were taking place outside of the prison?
Answer. I heard from other about that since I was simply a guard and I did not enter into the compound or prison very often.
And back then, were you able to see certain prisoners coming back from the interrogations? And if that is the case, in what kind of physical state were they?
No prisoner could get out of the prison after they were brought into S21 and the interrogations were inflicted on them.
Bon, je ne sais pas.
I'm not sure that we understood each other. There might be a problem here in the interpretation. So I'm going to read out what you said on 22 July 2009 before this chamber at 9:23. It's document E3/7484. You said the following. Free translation. I was standing guard outside. I saw detainees who, after having been interrogated, were covered with wounds on their bodies and on their back. Indeed, they had been sent to the chewing unit and they had been beaten up. End of quote, free translation. So you're speaking about the fact that you were a guard, but that you did see people coming back with injuries on their bodies and on their backs after they were interrogated. Can you confirm this, witness?
I object to this question, Mr. President. This is another example of mixing times and mixing the functions in time of this witness. When he was a guard, he was standing at the outside perimeter and clearly must have had very limited knowledge of what was going on in S21. When he became an interrogator, I presume he started to know about what the hot, cold and chewing unit was. Importing information that he most likely could only have known when he was an interrogator into his into the time that he was a guard is not contributing to ascertaining the truth. We should be very clear as to when he would be able to know what exactly.
President, let me also intervene in the matter and to have the clear answers and testimony of the witness. You, co-prosecutor, have to ask a basic question and clear question in relation to the compound. Both the inside and outside the compound of S21, and particularly the interrogation location where the interrogation took place. And the witness has already said that he was working perhaps 50 meters outside of the prison. And please make sure that you ask clearly about the timeline and also about the specific location as well as the function and tasks of this witness. As you know, this witness moved up the line from the ordinary staff up to the cadre or guards and later on the interrogator. And I have told the witness already that when he answered the question, he should make clear about the timeline. He once made mention about the 1979 when he knew about what happened at that place. But in fact, in 1979, there was only a few days before the DK collapsed. So please make sure that you focus on specific facts and location and as well as the time.
Thank you. I'm not going to waste more time about this. This was a detail, in fact. Maybe I will put two other questions before the break. First, was there outside of the prison, and this you might have learned as a guard or when you were an interrogator. So my question is, was there outside of the prison a special prison where high-level prisoners were detained?
Yes, the special prisons or the main prison, the big prisons were located in the south. President, it is now time for break. The chamber will take a short break from now until 10:30. Court officers, please assist the witness in the waiting room during the break time, and please invite him together with the duty counsel back into the courtroom at 10:30. The court is now in recess.